Hello and welcome to Home Studies e-learning for Advanced. Thanks for joining us. In this video, we'll take a look at Reading and Use of English Part 2, the Open Cloze. This part of the exam is similar to the multiple choice cloze we looked at in the last video, but without the multiple choice options. In this video, we'll discuss what's required in this part of the exam and do some practice exercises to improve your performance. As I've mentioned, before you get started, it's a good idea to print out the PDF handout of this unit so you can easily make notes and underline key information during the tasks. Or, if you don't have a printer, you can download it to a different device and use a highlighting tool for note-taking. Okay. Let's take a look at Part 2 of the exam in greater depth. Part 2 is the Open Cloze. In this activity, you'll be presented with a text and you'll need to complete the 8 gaps. There'll also be an additional gap at the beginning, number 0, which is an example. You need to complete each gap with the correct missing word. Unlike in Part 1 of the advanced exam, this task isn't multiple choice. You're not given a set of words to choose from. This time, most of the missing words will be grammatical words, not meaning or content words. You can only use one word in each gap, although in some cases there may be more than one possible answer. And finally, each correct answer is worth 1 mark. But remember, if you write more than one word in the gap, you won't get any marks, even if one of the words is correct. As I've already mentioned, in Part 2, the words you'll need to fill in the gaps will be mostly grammar words, rather than content words that carry the meaning of the sentence. So let's think about what type of words you might be looking for. Most of them are likely to be grammatical parts of speech, or lexico-grammatical words. Have a look at the examples given. Are you familiar with all these terms? If not, you might want to pause the video and look them up in a good grammar resource. Now it's time for a task. Let's check your understanding of some grammatical terms. Complete the table of different parts of speech with the words below. If you're not sure about the meanings of any of these terms, you might want to look them up in a good grammar resource. Pause the video and press play when you've finished the task. Okay, so pause the video while you compare your answers. As I've mentioned, if you're unclear about any of these grammatical terms, take a moment and look them up in a good grammar resource. Press play when you're ready to continue. Now it's time for another task. We've looked at some different parts of speech. Now let's look at some different language functions. Complete the table with the linking words that we use to show these 4 different language functions. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check your answers. Now check your answers. Did you get them all right? Think about other conjunctions and what functions we use those to show. Would you recognize when to use them in an open cloze? Now let's look at task 3. Look at these 7 sentences. Each of the fixed expressions highlighted in blue collocates with a particular preposition. Can you complete the gaps using the correct prepositions? Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on. Okay, let's check the answers then. Number 1 is to keep an eye on her kids. It means to watch someone, to make sure they don't get into trouble. Number 2 is stayed in touch with. This is a synonym for to keep in contact with someone. Number 3 is only a matter of time until. This expression means you're not sure when something will happen, but it's inevitable that it will. For example, it's only a matter of time until we run out of fossil fuels. Number 4 is to have any joy in. The speaker is asking if you've managed to find a flatmate. We use this expression in questions and negative sentences. Number 5 is stand a better chance of. It means you'll be more likely to do something. Number 6 is to be conscious of. To be conscious of something is a synonym for to be aware of. Finally, number 7 is to pay attention to detail. Did you get them all right? Make sure you make a note of any you got wrong. In a moment, we're going to do an exam-style task. But before you begin, let's just consider a few questions you should ask yourself when you're trying to fill in each gap. First of all, which part of speech do you need? Look at the sentence. Are you looking for an article, a verb, a preposition, a conjunction? Next, are there any clues to suggest that the word you're looking for is part of a collocation or a fixed phrase? Look at the words either side of the gap. Does the missing word have a dependent preposition? Remember, the correct answer will always be just one word, not a phrase. Finally, when you think you know the missing word, read the full sentence again. Does the word definitely fit with the words before and after the gap? So now that we've looked at some exam strategy tips, let's practice applying them. On the next 3 pages, you'll see a Part 2 style task. Read the text and try to fill in each of the missing words. Think about the exam strategy tips that we just discussed. Now pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to questions 12 to 14. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to questions 15 and 16. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, so if you're ready, compare your answers with the correct ones here. Notice how quite a few of the questions have more than one possible answer. Did you get them all right? If not, look back at the hints on the previous pages to see where you went wrong. Let's think briefly about headings. As I mentioned in the previous video, it's really important to read the heading of any text if there is one. The reason it's so useful is because it gives you information about the text and allows you to predict the possible content to come. Let's practice. Take a look at this heading. What do you think the text is going to be about? What kind of words would you expect to come across in a text with this title? Take a minute to consider. Then, go to the next slide and skim read the text quickly. Don't spend more than 2 minutes reading it. Skim read the text quickly to get the gist or the general meaning of it. Remember, don't spend more than 2 minutes reading it. Take a look at this short summary of the text. It explains the main points of the text in just a few sentences. Was it similar to what you predicted it would be about? Did any of the vocabulary you predicted come up? Okay, so now we're going to do a practice exam task using the text that you just read briefly. But before you begin, let me explain the instructions. You're going to see 8 questions. The questions are numbered 9 to 16, as these will be the question numbers when you sit the real exam. For each question, fill in the missing word using a suitable grammatical or lexicogrammatical word. Parts of the text have been highlighted in green to help you. These sections contain clues to the correct answers. Remember, you can only use one word in each gap. There's always an example question marked question 0 to show you what you need to do. Don't waste time trying to answer this question, as the answer's already given and you won't get any marks for it. When you sit the real exam, you need to write your answers clearly on the separate answer sheet in capital letters. For this practice task, though, you can write your answers on the PDF handout. Let's take a look at the example question before you get started on the task. You can see that this is the example question as it's marked 0. Underneath the question, you can see the answer, of. But why is the answer of? Well, we use of to link a quantity and a plural noun. Okay, let's begin the practice task. For some of the questions, it might be useful to look back at the text in its entirety to see the sentence in context. Write your answers on the PDF handout. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 10. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 11. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 12. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 13. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 14. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 15. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 16. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, time to check your answers now. Compare your answers to the correct ones below. You'll notice that for some of the questions there's more than one acceptable answer. If your answer isn't listed here, you wouldn't get a mark for it. If this is the case, look back at that sentence and try to work out why your answer is wrong. Remember, some sections have been highlighted to help you. Okay, so you've read the question and you think you know which word should go in the gap. What do you do next? Well, here's a checklist to help you. Firstly, you're allowed to write on the question paper, so write your answer in the gap. Then ask yourself the following 3 questions. Does the answer that you've written look right? Does it sound right? Does it feel right to you? Look again at the words that come directly before and after the gap. Does your answer fit with these words? If you've asked yourself these questions and you feel confident, then now you need to transfer your answers onto the answer sheet. If after this you're still unsure about a particular question, you can still come back to it later when you've completed the other sections. Here's another practice task for you to have a go at. Remember to apply all of the strategies and tips that we've talked about, like reading the heading and giving yourself a minute or 2 to quickly read the text for gist. Don't forget to go through your checklist when you think you know your answer. And remember, each gap represents one single word. You can't fill in a gap with an expression or a phrase. Pause the video and give yourself about 10 minutes to work on this task. Then press play when you're ready to check the answers. Okay, time to check the answers now. Compare your answers to the correct ones below. Did you get more answers right this time? That brings us to the end of Reading and Use of English Part 2, Open Cloze. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it's been really useful. Before I leave you, I just want to give you one final tip. Learn and record phrases, not just individual words. What exactly do I mean by that? Well, instead of learning the expression stay in touch, learn the full expression. Stay in touch with someone. Instead of noting down stand a good chance, make sure you write down the whole expression. Stand a good chance of doing something. That way, not only will your English be more accurate, but it will stand you in good stead for the Open Cloze activity in the Reading and Use of English exam. Thanks again, and remember to do the practice activities and quizzes in this module to consolidate the techniques you've just learned. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.